Hello everyone, my name is Ritesh Pandey, and in this class, this video, we'll talk about a very unique phenomena which we apply in all branches of chemistry, physical, organic, inorganic. We'll talk about resonance. Now resonance, which is also known as mesomeric effect, it's not like this term is limited to one branch of science or chemistry. I'm sure you would have heard about resonance before. You talk about resonance of sound waves. We talk about resonance of ideas or thoughts in literature. So basically, what is the basic understanding of the term resonance? Now, in any branch of science or literature, you know what comes to your mind when you hear resonance is, it's certainly some kind of activity. It's some kind of activity which is maybe repeating itself. It's an activity which is continuous, an activity which is going to be very impactful, certainly. In chemistry and in chemical bonding, our first encounter with resonance and our first understanding of resonance has to be, it's basically delocalization of electrons. Now mind you, only lone pairs and pi bonds are allowed. Only lone pairs and pi bond are allowed to delocalize. Now localization means being stagnant at one place. Delocalization means naturally it's some kind of movement. So this is movement of electrons. I repeat, only lone pairs and pi bonds are allowed. Sigma bonds are not allowed. You'll want to know it right at the beginning. And this delocalization of electrons will cause different structures. Those structures are called resonating structures. They're also called canonical structures. Naturally, we'll begin our discussion by drawing some resonating canonical structures. And we'll see that in course of drawing these structures, knowing the possible resonating structures, will be able to explain so many physical and chemical properties of those molecules. So I repeat, it's a very, very impactful or a very significant tool which helps us in explaining various physical and chemical properties of different compounds. I repeat, we'll be using it almost in every class of organic chemistry. We'll want to begin with some inorganic compounds, and later we'll find the same ideas helping us in all of organic chemistry as well. Trust me, there cannot be a class of organic chemistry where you do not hear about resonance. Because you know, the movement of electrons is going to trigger so many chemical and physical activities, largely chemical activities. Let's begin with an example. Suppose you have a molecule like, or a species like carbonate, CO3 2-. Now, with all the information you have gathered from valence bond theory, hybridization, and maybe valence electron pair repulsion theory, carbonate, carbon is sp2 hybridized. So we'll want to have carbon with these three arms, all the three bonded to oxygen. Now, if this is the basic structure of carbonate, 2- will mean two of these oxygen atoms need to have a negative charge. Suppose this is negative, and here I'll be drawing a double bond for two reasons. One, naturally carbon is tetravalent, so I'll want 4 arms, and two, naturally the oxygen is bivalent. Naturally oxygen ka valency is 2, carbon ka valency is 4. So first of all, I'll know carbon is sp2 hybridized. I'll want these three to be in one plane, pointing towards the direction of an equilateral triangle, trigonal planar arrangement. And then I'll want this to be a double bond, because naturally carbon is tetravalent. I'll want 4 bonds, and oxygen naturally is bivalent. So with 2 bonds, this oxygen will be neutral, and oxygen with only 1 bond with 1 more lone pair, a negative generally means an extra pair of electrons. So with an extra pair of electrons, even if it's having 2 bond pairs, let's understand there are 2 lone pairs here. And a negative would mean there is an extra lone pair. So there are 3 lone pairs on this oxygen as well as this oxygen. So this is how we go about drawing the structure of carbonate. This is how you write carbonate. This is how you know carbonate. But if you only leave at this point, if this is all you want to know about carbonate, there will be some issues. Like 1, you'll find 1 double bond and 2 single bonds. You'll find 1 double bond and 2 single bonds. Secondly, because double bonds and single bonds are different, there is more electron density here, you will expect that this bond angle will be different from this bond angle. So with one structure of carbonate drawn like this, you will expect two types of bond lengths and two types of bond angles. That does not happen. I guess we all know in carbonate, all bond lengths and all bond angles are equal. So right now we have a situation to handle. Right now we have a property to explain, which is how do we explain all equal bonds, equal bond lengths, equal bond angles in suppose a species like carbonate. Now this is what I propose. This lone pair, suppose this lone pair comes down. If this lone pairs come down, this carbon will have 2, 2, 4, 1, 5 arms. When this lone pairs come down, carbon will have 2, 2, 4, 1, 5 arms to escape this pentavalency, because carbon cannot be pentavalent. Suppose this pi bond goes here. Now what I have done is, I have wanted to bring a double bond here, and this becomes O minus, and the same can be said for this lone pair. This lone pair can also come down. Again, to escape pentavalency, this bond would come here, and naturally this is the third structure which I can draw, where I'll have double bond here. You'll want to notice a few things. One, while moving from this structure to this structure, I'm drawing a double-headed arrow. A double-headed arrow indicates it can move forward as well as backward. So I'm suggesting this can happen forward as well as backward, means there could be a pi bond here or a pi bond here, and in the third structure there could be a pi bond here. In the process, I am able to bring double bond in all the three regions. See, when I draw these three structures, first of all I'll call this phenomena resonance, because see, we are playing around with lone pair and pi bonds. This phenomena will be called resonance. 1, 2. While drawing these three structures, I'll be able to explain double bond in this region as well as this region as well as this region. Now these are the resonating structures or canonical structures. Let me tell you a few things, right at the beginning. 1, resonance is a phenomenon, it's not a process. Again, we don't want to get very finicky with the literal meaning of process and phenomena. People are allowed to use, process and phenomena at their own choice. We do not have too much to pick, from the literal meaning. But generally, in our classes, in our discussions, we'll call something a process if that happening can be explored, studied, or examined. So something, which could be theoretically or experimentally proved is suppose a process, and something which is only hypothetical, something which is only a school of thought, which is only helping us, in understanding a lot of aspects of different molecules and compounds, but it is not something which can be realized or which can be photographed or experienced or perceived, will be called a phenomena. Prior to resonance, we have also seen a phenomena like hybridization. So remember, in the course of mixing orbitals and producing hybrid orbitals, we were able to explain so many questions there, We were able to explain the geometry, the bond lengths of different structures. So hybridization certainly is a very important tool. Resonance is a very important tool. But it's not something which happens in reality. It's not something which can be perceived by any of the means, but it's a very important, significant tool which will help us in all branches of chemistry and science. Now we'll go back to this phenomena one more time. We are playing around with lone pair and pi bond. And trust me, these resonating structures will give me an idea about the real structure of carbonate. I did tell you resonance is not something which happens in reality. At the same time, it's a very significant tool. This school of thought, this hypothesis, this phenomena is going to be required all of organic chemistry, at one point of time. And the real picture of carbonate, which will emerge out of these three possibilities, is going to be this one. This is how you draw the real picture. You draw 3 oxygen at the 3 ends, and then you draw discontinuous lines. Discontinuous lines would mean there is some double bond character here. Now this double bond character, this double bond character is supposed to be shared in these three regions. This double bond character is supposed to be distributed in these three regions. These are supposed to be having double bond character. This is again a very popular term, abbreviated as DBC, double bond character. So all the three arms will have an intermittent behavior between a single bond and double bond. Now first of all, very logically, I could have said that all the three positions are equivalent. I could have said all the three nuclei are same oxygen. I could have also said that maybe only by rotating, these structures, I could convert this to this to this, maybe an anti-clockwise rotation on the plane of the board. I could convert this to that to that. But more correctly, don't you think if all the three are the same nuclei oxygen, and thus being a symmetrical structure, it is very unfair कि यहाँ पर you have double bond and here you have single bond and here you have single bond. There cannot be a biased approach. So nature cannot be biased, and a species like this cannot have double bond at one point and single point at other points. Secondly, I cannot begin like this. I cannot start carbonate in this way. I cannot draw three bonds and I tell you, all right, carbon is tetravalent, 3 bond ऐसे बनाओ and break the 4 bond and distribute in these three regions. That is again not a friendly approach. If I begin in this manner, the concept will be gone. I cannot draw carbonate telling you carbon at the center, 3 oxygen this way, और चौथा bond को तोड़ के तीनों जगह distribute कर दो. That would not be user friendly. That would not make any sense. Only when I draw carbonate in this manner, and then I tell you there could be something at play of this kind, where this lone pair can come down to avoid pentavalency. This will go up. And when we get used to this, when we start applying this very often, when we start playing with this lone pair and pi bond more often, and as I did tell you, although this is not something happening in reality, it will find its application in all of chemistry. I had to be very clinical to begin with, and that is why I felt it necessary that this is something which has a hypothetical existence. Resonating structures do not exist in reality. Carbonate never is going to have a look like this or a look like this or a look like this. This is called the resonance hybrid. First of all, this is called the resonance hybrid. And hybrid is the real picture. Hybrid is the real picture. Hybrid is the real picture. What resonance will do is, resonance will help me in arriving at the real picture. Only when I draw this and I draw that and I draw the third structure, only when I make you see a double bond here as well as here as well as here, by telling you a story or a phenomena or something which can happen in this manner, I convince you that there is double bond character in all the three regions. Finally, there is double bond character in all the three regions. This is the real picture. I repeat, hybrid is the real picture, but you will be able to draw and understand the hybrid via a phenomena called resonance. So this was all about carbonate. Now you can explain all bond lengths equal, because all of them will have equal double bond character. All bond lengths are equal. Now you will be able to explain all bond angles equal, because all the three carbon oxygen bonds will look identical when we consider something like resonance happening. So maybe I'll extend this practice to a couple of more cases. First of all, if it's neither a single bond nor a double bond, we'll want to get used to what's called a fractional bond order. We'll get used to what's called a fractional bond order. There are different ways in which bond order is calculated in textbooks. I'll tell you the most fundamental way. So whenever you have to calculate bond order, you will want to count the total number of bonds. See, in all these structures, the number of bonds is 2, 1, 3, 1, 4. Between carbon and oxygen, there are 2, 1, 3, 1, 4 bonds. So overall 4 bonds, and they are distributed in 3 regions, 1, 2 and 3. So 4 by 3 naturally is a number between 1 and 2. And you end up saying that the bond order between carbon and oxygen in carbonate, this is the real picture, hybrid is the real picture, and all the bonds have bond order equal to 4 by 3. They all have equal double bond character. Naturally, when you look at this picture, you will understand all bonds are equal in length and all bond angles are equal as well. So chances are, with a few more examples, you will start getting a hang of it. I'll want to remove this and give you a couple of more examples. So after carbonate, suppose you have a structure like PO4 3 minus, PO4 3 minus. Yet again, from basic valence bond theory, hybridization, VSEPR, by some tricks you would understand this phosphorus is sp3. So naturally around this phosphorus you'll want 4 arms pointing towards the direction of a tetrahedron, and once you place these 4 oxygen atoms, phosphorus is pentavalent, maybe you'll want to have a double bond here, so that around phosphorus there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 bonds. And then this oxygen will look neutral because it has 2 bonds, and all the 3 will be negative, negative, negative. I've already told you negative would mean 1 extra lone pair. So natural oxygen, if it has 2 lone pairs, they might be having 3 lone pairs. And yet again, if this is the only concrete structure which you have, if you do not move beyond it, if you do not move beyond it, if this is what you want to know about phosphate, you'll expect 2 types of bond lengths, a double bond and 3 single bonds, and naturally the bond angles might also be different. That does not happen in phosphate. Yet again, all bond lengths and all bond angles are equal. All bond lengths and all bond angles are equal. So how do you go about it? You will again use resonance. You'll play this game involving lone pair and pi bond. When this lone pair comes down, phosphorus will have 2, 2, 4, 5, 6 arms. Phosphorus is in group 5, it cannot have hexavalency. This pi bond will come here. Now when you see the pi bond coming here, this oxygen will have 2 and 1 more 3 lone pair. So now the next structure will look like P having double bond here, and similarly you can have a double bond here as well. You can make this come down and this go there. So you can have a structure like this. You can have a structure like phosphorus where you have a double bond over here. I think it's clearly visible to all of you. And that way I can bring a double bond between this phosphorus and oxygen as well. Yet again, natural logic, common sense will tell me if all the nuclei are identical oxygen, there cannot be any bias. Naturally, this being symmetrical, there should be equal bond character around all arms of phosphorus, and that is what is going to be the picture of the hybrid. First of all, I draw these structures, double-headed arrows. I bring resonance into play. I tell you that there could be double bond here as well as here as well as here. The phenomena which I use is resonance. I'm playing around with lone pair and pi bonds. And when you have drawn a few structures, I'm not drawing all of them. The next would be when you have a double bond, suppose there. Then you can think of the hybrid. Now, what will the hybrid look like? I'll want to give you a bigger picture maybe. The hybrid will look as if, this is phosphorus, oxygen, 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 and then again this scattered double bond character. This scattered double bond character, this continuous lines would mean, there is partly double bond character. I'll be using this term DBC. And yet again, this hybrid will be the real picture. This hybrid will be the real picture. This hybrid will be the real picture. This hybrid will be the real picture, and you can calculate bond order between phosphorus and oxygen by counting the total number of bonds, which is 2, 3, 4, 5. See, there are 5 bonds altogether. 5 bonds distributed in 1, 2, 3, 4 regions. 5 bonds distributed in 4 regions. Bond order will be 5 by 4, which is 1.25. So naturally bond order is between 1 and 2, and all of them will have equal bond order. This will explain why all the bond lengths are equal, and naturally all bond angles are equal. We'll maybe want to see one more example before we take a case from organic chemistry. Let's talk about sulfate, SO4 2-. Sulfate 2-. Now we all agree from our understanding of hybridization and all that in sulfate the sulfur is again expected to be sp3. Remember, number of valence electrons 6 plus 2 ionic charge, 6 plus 2 8 by 2, you know there are steric number is 4, sp3. So how do you begin? You begin like drawing sulfur and these 4 oxygen atoms, and now naturally because it's 2 minus, you will maybe want to have a negative here, suppose a negative here, and then a double bond here, a double bond here. Yet again both the objectives taken care of. One, when you put a double bond here and here, sulfur will have 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 arms. This makes sulfur hexavalent. Group 6, it is naturally hexavalent. And these 2 oxygen will appear neutral with 2 bonds. Double bonded oxygen will appear neutral with a single bond, and extra lone pair, these 2 are negative. Yet again, if this is the only concrete picture, you will expect 2 types of bond lengths, 2 types of bond angles. In sulfate, again bond lengths and bond angles are equal. So how do you explain all arms of the same kind? We yet again play the same game, bring the lone pair down, this will go up, and naturally this could be a picture. Maybe you will want to bring this pi bond down, make this lone pair go up. When you bring this pi bond down, again the logic could be when you bring this pi bond down, 2, 4, 6, 7, sulfur cannot be hexavalent. To escape heptavalency, it cannot be heptavalent. To escape heptavalency, this is coming out here, and you can draw a structure, you know, where. So, you know, initially to begin with, you had double bond on the top and bottom. Now you have double bond, say, to the left, to the right. First of all the 4 positions are equivalent. They're also occupied by identical nuclei, and naturally, just being symmetrical, there cannot be a bias. You know, I constantly talk about bias, I can talk about natural symmetry. At the end of everything, we have to explain a structure where all the 4 bonds are identical, so that the bond lengths and bond angles are equal. And whether you draw this or not, while drawing this, you will have a basic understanding that I can have double bond in all the 4 regions. You know, I'm not drawing all the resonating structures, but naturally this helps you in understanding that there could be double bond character in all the regions. You do see double bond, you know, experience double bond in all the 4 regions. So it helps now for you to be happy with a structure where naturally you'll have some double bond character and equal double bond character in all the regions. You'll have some double bond character and equal double bond character in all the regions. This is the resonance hybrid. This is the resonance hybrid. I repeat, this is the real picture of sulfate. This is the natural real picture of sulfate. सल्फेट ऐसे एग्जिस्ट करता है. सल्फेट का पिक्चर ना तो ऐसा होता है, ना तो ऐसा होता है, ना तो ऐसा होता है. रियल स्ट्रक्चर सल्फेट का ऐसा होता है. All the 4 arms are identical. There is double bond character in all the 4 regions, and there are equal double bond characters. So naturally, they all have equal bond length, equal bond angle. And how do you derive the bond order? You derive bond order by realizing that in any of these structures there are 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 arms. 6 arms in any of them. And it is shared between 4 regions. It is shared between 4 regions. So 6 by 4, 1.5 is how you calculate the bond order between sulfur and oxygen in any of these bonds. And I think I've been able to, you know, get you started with some application of resonance. We'll talk about more applications. We'll see it's very application oriented. I repeat, all of organic chemistry, every other class, you know, or rather in all the classes will need resonance to explain some or the other property. This being the first class, we'll limit our discussion to some fundamental cases. We'll talk about some features of resonance shortly. But you know, before I go into the characteristics of or some facts of resonance, let me give you one example from organic compound. And I'm sure you would have seen this before. You would have certainly known this compound before. Allow me to remove this. At any point of time, you know, you can pause the video and copy all of it. And the simplest example of or application of resonance from the world of organic chemistry, I guess you all know about this compound, this formulae, C6H6. Yes, you know about benzene, which is basically a six-membered ring with alternate double bonds and single bonds. Double bonds, single bonds, double bonds, single bond, double bond. So we all grow up knowing this as one particular structure of benzene. Then remember, in all the textbooks, they'll give you another structure, These are the two structures we talk about. These are the two structures which we talk about. Here all carbon are sp2. It's a completely planar arrangement. All carbon is attached to one hydrogen each. I'm obviously giving you the bond line form. Each carbon at the corner is attached to one hydrogen. All carbon are sp2. It's a flat planar structure. And all bond angles are 120 degrees. sp2 flat planar, all bond angles are 120 degrees. If you look at hydrogen here, you look at hydrogen here, you look at hydrogen here, all bond angles will be 120. It's a perfectly symmetrical trigonal planar arrangement around every carbon atom. But yet again, you talk about structure 1 or structure 2. You talk about structure 1 or structure 2. If you think this is right at one point of time or this is right at another point of time, at any point of time, there will be 3 double bonds and 3 single bonds. At any point of time, there will be 3 double bonds and 3 single bonds, which will mean at any point of time, yet again, there should be 2 types of bond lengths. With carbon, we'll want to have a little bit more information. I can tell you a carbon-carbon single bond length is 1.39 angstrom. A carbon-carbon double bond length is 1.34 angstrom, and a carbon-carbon triple bond length is 1.24 angstrom. This is 1.56, I believe. So suppose these are single bond, double bond, triple bond lengths, and naturally with multiplicity of bond, the nuclei will come closer. Suppose these are some values handy. Single bond is bigger than double bond will bring it closer, triple bond will bring it even closer. Now we'll see in benzene, all bond lengths are equal, and they're equal to 1.39 angstrom. All bond lengths are equal, and it's equal to 1.39 angstrom means it's a value between single bond and double bond. And the moment all bond lengths are equal, neither this nor this will represent the real picture. Now let's understand, how do you play between these two structures? Again, in a textbook, drawing these structures to you, maybe there are arrowheads like this. So with every carbon you find 1, 2, 3, 4. With every carbon 1, 2, 3, 4. Around every carbon you see 1, 2, 3, 4. There are already 4 bonds. Now naturally, if this pi bond comes in this manner, when there is a double bond here and a double bond here, this carbon will become pentavalent. See, when this pi bond comes here, this carbon will become pentavalent. To avoid pentavalency, this will come here. When this comes here, this carbon will become pentavalent, and that will go to that carbon. So naturally, yet again, it's involving delocalization of electrons, pi bonds only this time. So pi bonds, delocalized in this manner. Pi bonds delocalized in this manner will give you another structure. So these two would be like the two resonating structures. Double-headed arrow, this can again go back to the previous one. I can again make this happen in this way. Again, this can, undergo the same kind of delocalization to give you another set of 3 pi bonds in this manner. But neither this nor that is the real picture, because had benzene existed like this at any point of time, you would have got 2 types of bond lengths. 3 pertinent to double bonds and 3 related to single bonds. All bond lengths are equal, and the real picture which you arrive at is this one. This is the real picture which you draw. You draw a homogeneous electron density. This is the real picture. This is the resonance hybrid. This is the real picture. Doesn't matter which form is allowed in your school and board exams. That's a different story altogether. But trust me, this is the real picture of benzene. The hybrid is the real picture. You have double bond character in all the regions. Naturally, for this hybrid, the double bond character can be calculated like 6 sigma bonds and 3 pi bonds. So there are 9 bonds altogether. We'll want to be attentive. 6 sigma bonds, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 between carbon-carbon, 6 sigma bonds and 3 pi bonds. So 9 bonds altogether in this or that structure, and double bond character can be taken as 9 upon and distributed in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 regions. So naturally double bond character is 1.5. There is equal double bond character throughout. This is the real picture. There is equal double bond character throughout. This is the real picture, and all bond lengths are equal. The value is between single bond and double bond. So we can move on. And for benzene, I can tell you one more fact. You know, when it's a simple basic organic compound like benzene, let's understand that for benzene, if this is the arrangement of the 6 carbon atoms, I'm just trying to give you another approach to things. And if this is how we have decided all the sigma bonds, I told you about hybridization. All sp2, we believe in sp2 it's px py taken. We believe everything in this whiteboard is in the x and the y plane, and if this is the x and y axis, naturally z axis is coming out of the plane of the board, going into the plane of the board. Z axis is normal to this whiteboard. And then if this is flat planar, let me just check if all of this is, coming in the view of the camera or not. All right, looks good. So remember, we learned this in hybridization, that if it's using px py, the two p orbitals used as px py, and all of this is lying flat on the plane of the whiteboard, which is the xy plane, then don't you think all of them will have z orbitals, pz rather, pz, all of them will have pz perpendicular to this plane. And how do you go about drawing the pi bonds? You draw the pi bonds by this lateral overlap. Now, if there is a lateral overlap between these two carbons, suppose a pi bond here, you can relate it to this structure. A pi bond here. Now, if these two carbon have a pi bond here, naturally these two will be having a pi bond, and these two will be having a pi bond. So you will have a pi bond in this region, and this region. Now that looks very much like this one. That looks very much like this structure. Pi bond here between these two, pi bond between these two, and pi bond between these two. See, I'm trying to explain you a valid point here. And the other way around, it could be if suppose these two carbon choose to have a pi bond, if these two p orbitals choose to have a pi bond, there could be a pi bond in this region, there could be a pi bond in this region, there could be a pi bond in this region. So when you have a pi bond out here, you have a pi bond here, and you have a pi bond here. Now that would relate to that particular structure. So naturally the two structures which we see for benzene, are about the 3 pair of pairings. It's about the 3 pair of pairings which are possible either between these two, and these two, or suppose between these two, and these two. So 2 different pair of possibilities pairing would result in either a structure of this kind or a structure of this kind. Either you take help of resonance, either you believe in a phenomena where you are allowed to move pi bonds in this manner and arrive at so many results and so many explanations, or you draw the molecular orbital picture every time. You understand, this will be challenging. In every example, every case, you will not be able to draw this. I mean, it's not like we need resonance, we can also explain it logically using the orbitals. I mean, eventually what happens is the set of p orbitals, they merge together, and by this mutual merger, you have a uniform electron density in form of a ring. Now, this uniform electron density in form of a ring has a real existence. This is the real picture. It can be proved in so many ways. So, hybrid is the real picture. I can explain hybrid without using resonance, but don't you think it's not possible to draw the orbitals every time? It's not possible to draw the orbitals every time. This is like a simple game which we play to understand that there is double bond character in all the regions, and with that mindset we are able to draw a structure like this, where there is equal double bond character and all bond lengths are equal, and between single bond and double bond, and naturally all bond lengths are same. For a compound as popular as benzene, I wanted to give you some data here, so you can again pause the video, you can copy all of this. We'll want to move on. Now we'll see some basic facts about resonance. We'll want to know some basic facts about resonance, and some basic facts would be like, first and foremost, in different resonating structures, the position of nuclei or the atom doesn't change. So that is something we saw even in all the structures, the examples. You're allowed to move the electrons, the lone pairs and pi bonds can move. The position of nuclei will never change. The position of nuclei will never change. So if they give you a form like HCN and a form like HNC, this is cyanide, this is isocyanide. Now this is not resonance, because you find the position of carbon and nitrogen interchanged. So every time the position of nuclei is changing, there is a relative change in the position of atom, it's not resonance. So these are not resonating structures. Because in resonating structures the position of nuclei does not change. Rule 2 could be, sigma bond is never broken. Naturally we believe sigma to be a stronger association. We believe sigma is by a more effective direct overlap of orbitals. So only pi bonds and lone pairs are allowed to break. Sigma bond is never broken. At some point of time in organic chemistry, if you want something like resonance to happen involving sigma bonds, you are allowed to do that with a different name. I'm just giving you a name right now. It's called hyperconjugation, but that will be given a different name. It will be a different phenomena from resonance, because in resonance we'll never break a sigma bond. Every time we break a sigma bond and do something like resonance, we'll want to give it a different name. You will find a name hyperconjugation later on in our discussion. A sigma bond is never allowed to break. Now, total charge remains the same. Total charge is always the same. Total charge remains the same in all resonating structures. So charge can neither be created nor destroyed. It's not like one resonating structure will have charge -2, another will have -1 or -3. They'll all have same charge, and naturally the total number of lone pairs plus pi bonds, pi bonds which is generally by the merger of p orbitals, this will never change. This will remain the same. So a lone pair will convert to a pi bond or vice versa, but the sum of lone pair plus pi bond, the sum of lone pair and pi bond in different resonating structures, that will not change. So these are some basic rules you'll want to know about resonance. The structures which we draw so far, the structures which I gave you for carbonate, sulfate, phosphate, benzene, they were similar in all respects. They were identical in all respects. Those are the equivalent resonating structures, and when these structures are equivalent, resonance is even more effective. I've just got you started with the basics of resonance. Trust me, resonance is going to find a lot of application in different aspects of chemistry. It will be about the structure of the compound, it will be about the chemical properties of the compound, acidity of the compound. In different forms, resonance is going to affect various properties of chemical compound and its chemistry. Secondly, if the structures are identical, they'll all have equal energy, they'll contribute equally to the hybrid, and at some point of time, we'll also want to learn about the relative stability of resonating structures. So maybe our next discussion will be on the relative stability of resonating structures, and we'll see a more stable structure will contribute more to the resonance hybrid. So those are topics which we'll want to see only when the time is right. When we want to talk more about resonance or resonating structures, maybe in the next video or the next segment on resonance, we'll talk about the rules deciding the stability of various resonating structures. This much for the time being. I hope this will help you in solving the basic questions and will clear the basic ideas on resonance. We'll talk more about resonance. We'll talk more about resonating energy, its applications. I repeat, when the time is right. So this much for today. Thank you so much.